Thank you so much for staying with us. 33 minutes after the hour, and we're joined by Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Ibrahim. He'll be joining me as I dig into the papers. But if you're just, joining us this morning, well, we've already had the news. We've told you about what to expect. Of course, today we're going to be dissecting Mr. President's address yesterday on the state of the economy. Were you impressed? Were you satisfied? Looking at the measures, the reasons we've ended up here in the first place, and the measures to mitigate the situation. Well, you can share your thoughts with us via the live stream. We're also going to be discoursing on some other pertinent matters on the show, and we'll be hosting Kwesiche Dakwa one more time, and he's going to be blunt as always, or maybe just as I am. So look forward to that. But I'd like to say a very good morning to Suleiman Ibrahim. Sule, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me, Ben. Good morning.
It's been a week, and I have missed you. I hope you're well.
Yes, I'm doing well, managing under the circumstances, but we are coping.
So tell me, what has the week been like since I did not interact with you last Monday? I actually took a bit of a leave. What has the week been like for you? I'll share a story with you. About 2 months ago, I interacted with this kenke seller. I passed by somewhere and I go see her. I saw her with a carton of jassy fish. So I asked her, how much does it sell for now? And she said, well, it used to sell for around 100 cedis. Now it's selling for 240 cedis. And I said, wow, okay. Just yesterday, I passed by again and I spoke to her and asked, so how much is the carton going for now? And she says it's even less than a carton now, and it's going for around 350 cedis. And she lamented. She went on and said, amani, common amani, in her words, common amani, we can't buy it anymore. So I'd like to find out from you. There are those who say a gallon of oil is 1,200, others who say this and that. What is the picture for you, Suleiman Ibrahim?
Well, Ben, it's not different. It's quite sometimes surprising when you hear the prices of items that you are familiar with. So I normally, on my way home, would stop and then get maybe bread or a few things for the house. And bread that I used to buy initially was 8 cedis, then later 12 cedis. Now, as time went on, it got to 15. Then for some reason, I stopped for a while. Then last week when I went there, it was 23 cedis. And I'm like, hey, what's happening?
What, a loaf of bread is 23 Ghana cedis?
Yes, and it's not just that. Literally everything that you want to go for, you should just be prepared, double the amounts that you knew you used to buy it for. Stuff like even tea roll, fluffy or whatever they call it. They used to sell it by the roadside. You grab it at 10 cedis. Now it is 25 cedis. So prices are just skyrocketing. We're just hoping that maybe there could be measures to tame the rising inflation and all of that. But it appears that we still have a long way to go, which is quite a sad situation.
Tell me, I know you followed Mr. President yesterday as he spoke about our economy. Were you satisfied? Is this what you were looking for? Were you convinced that we could get out of this situation? He talks about the fact that, look, these are global conditions. He re-echoes what his party has said time and again. COVID-19, Russo-Ukrainian war. Then he says there are some people whose actions are forcing the currency down, who are bad-mouthing the currency. He talks about the fact that c'est comme PDD. L'argent n'aime pas le bruit, as he put it. And then he went on to talk about the fact that they're doing everything to get us an IMF deal by close of year. How convinced were you?
So I listened to the president, and at the end of it, I thought I may have missed something. So fortunately, my Joy Online had put up the full text of his speech. So I decided to read the entire speech, and I realized that actually I didn't miss anything. I actually heard him throughout the speech. And I thought I had missed something because under the circumstances, I didn't expect that the president would basically come and tell us what we already know and the usual flowery language and promises and all of that. And actually now telling us or letting us know that how quick or how soon they're going to get the IMF deal is a major thing that we should expect. In fact, I think what happened was that the president touched on so many things except the real problems that we face. He did not address the problems that we face. To talk about importation, exportation, I remember when he was opposition leader, he kept referring to our economy as a Goggisberg economy that needed to be addressed. And that is why people voted for you to come into power and put in place measures that would help improve our economy. So you shouldn't have a situation where after almost 6 years in power, you now turn around to tell us why the economy is the way it is. That is why people voted for you. But like I said, the president touched on many things except our problems, the real problems. And I'm surprised that he did not touch on the real problems. And for me, and as many others know, the real problems are, one, what is the president doing to deal with corruption? We've borrowed so much, and there is so little to show for the amount of money that we've borrowed. And this is because there are leakages, people are pilfering, people are stealing, people are looting from the states. His Excellency the President should be aware. He should know about how many of his officials and appointees have put out so many buildings, so many houses, opened up.
Oh, it appears we have a break in that. Suleiman Abrahima sharing his thoughts with us. Please go ahead, Sule.
Yes. I think that the president should certainly know about all this. So for him to ignore that fundamental problem and not even touch on the issue of corruption, and rather to focus on people needing to pay more, people have to pay more taxes, a GRA is revamping its tax collection measures, that's fine. But when people keep paying and we don't see where the money is going and what the monies are doing for us, you don't expect people to continue to be in that mode of wanting to pay. That's number one. Number two is that the little taxes that are being paid, and there's so much money that has been borrowed, that have actually put us in the ditch now. There's complete mismanagement by Ken Ofori-Atta. That's another significant problem that the president refused to talk about. If we had a good manager, we shouldn't be where we are. We have a situation where the manager of the economy has a company, and anytime we borrow, part of the money goes into that company. The person who took over, our economy, yes, it wasn't doing so well. We say, oh, the economy grew by whatever percent in 2017, 2018, and all of that. That was a time when significant investments had been made in the power sector and so on and so forth. Believe it or not, support it or not, President Mohammed's government had laid down a certain level of infrastructure that any government who was taking over was going to benefit from. It is not MPP that brought this end to doomsday and so on and so forth. That's all propaganda. And we have a situation where the economy has been mismanaged into a ditch. Today, our currency is the worst in the world, not even Sri Lanka that we used to know. The president didn't touch on the mismanagement of the economy by the person he has put, or the persons he has put there to manage the economy. The third problem, which is real, is the size of his government. The president, again, did not touch on that. The number of appointees, the number of ministers, and all of that, the president stayed away from that. The fourth problem is his own ostentatious lifestyle. We don't have the money. What is he doing as president? The size of budget allocation to the presidency. The president didn't talk about all these things. If I were him, yesterday, what people were expecting to hear was, yes, we are in crisis. It's good that now he admits that we are in crisis, because earlier when you say we are in crisis, they say, no, what we have is a challenge. Now he admits that we are in crisis. I don't know how long they were waiting to admit that we were in crisis. But what people were expecting would have been, yes, we are in crisis. We are trying to deal with the situation under the circumstance. These measures have been put in place, A, B, C. Right now, we are going to be very, very aggressive on corruption, and during cabinet, I have made it clear to my ministers and appointees that if anything should come, even before we initiate prosecution, certain steps would have been taken for you to even refund whatever that has been looted. So corruption is going to be a major thing. Number two, I have heard people, and I'm going to listen. People are saying that Ken Ofori-Atta must go. People have lost confidence in him. The finance minister doesn't have credibility anymore. People cannot trust the finance minister and whatever he says. Ghanaians, fellow Ghanaians, I've listened to you, I've heard you, and I've decided to make a decision on that. And in the coming week or so, you will hear an announcement on how or who is going to take over from the finance.
But to be fair, isn't there's a bit of a roadmap, because the majority MPs, 85 of them, who said, look, we're going against him. I mean, this was like internal chaos. And Mr. President spoke to them and said, okay, let's have some sort of a deal. Wait till he's done with the IMF program and with the budget for 2023, and then we can, possibly see an ousting of the finance minister. I think that is some, the buck stops there, doesn't it?
I really don't know what His Excellency the President has in Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, or knows about Mr. Ofori-Atta, or is aware about how things are being managed, that he is finding it absolutely difficult to replace Mr. Ofori-Atta. I just don't know what the secret is. Look, this is not a private company. We are talking about the nation. And His Excellency Mr. Akufo-Addo, President Akufo-Addo, does not own this country. We are all citizens. We've given him the power to manage this country on behalf of all of us. The people who gave you the power are saying, look, we don't think that this person is doing the right job. This person who promised us that e-levy will do everything. E-levy came and nothing is happening. This person who promised that, look, we are not going to go to IMF. We are not short-sighted people. We are a proud nation. We know how to manage our affairs. In about a month, we went to the IMF. So, Mr. President, do something, even if it is to restore confidence. Is it the case that we have the men? The only person they have who could manage the finance ministry is Mr. Ofori-Atta? Is that all we have? I don't want to believe so. Right. I don't want to believe that. One would have been expecting him to make a major announcement on that. The other point is, look, the president has absolute power to say, look, I'm cutting budgetary allocation to the presidency by half. And I'm going to halve the number of presidential staffers operating at the presidency. And going forward, there's going to be some alignments and all of that to reduce the number of ministers and appointees.
And those are two major issues. Just to take a bit of pause there. That when under Mahama we had about 300, we complained. Now we have about 1,000. And you're talking about ministers, and it's been said time and again that we can do with about 70, even 65. I think the majority leader himself, Osei Mensa Bonsu, has said it before in advocating, a Westminster kind of setting. Former President Mahama recently said it, and we have over 100 of them, and none of that. So it's not convincing for you then?
Absolutely not. Okay. I don't think that the president said anything yesterday that is reassuring. Except to appeal to Ghanaians. We know we are in a difficult time. We have done it before. We have always come out of this. We said we know how to build the economy, but we don't know how to save lives or bring back lives. Just rhetoric.
Just rhetoric. Okay, so for you, it was all about words. Just quickly on this, I want us to move into other things. In fact, the Daily Graphic captures that, so I'll just take that as well. But I noted yesterday how he was reaching out to traders. You remember Gov't and their action recently. And he says, please let us be measured in the margins we add. We are in this together. But I found it interesting when he said, I hesitate to call them names. That is the traders. I mean, he was sounding more Pacific, and all of a sudden he was talking about, I hesitate to call them names. I mean, why would you even put that into a speech? I don't know who did that, whether he inserted that himself or whether, it was written for him, but I felt that was a bit of a gaffe. But especially when it comes to what he says about traders, that, they should be hesitant. Don't just add to the margins, because we also know that, look, there are some who are taking advantage of the situation and just adding dubious margins. And he also talks about those who are speaking down the Ghana cedi, so to speak. Those who are saying a lot of negative things about the Ghana cedi. We've seen Forex Bureau that have been shut and all of that. What do you make of these two? Very, very quickly, and we shall proceed.
Well, we've always had traders in this country. I don't think that traders were behaving this way when things were stable and when they could predict how things were going to go. I believe that those who may be imposing or adding these margins that are quite extraordinary, perhaps sometimes would do that because the cedi itself has been galloping in a manner that is so unpredictable, and you just can't, because you go and buy something today at 500, the next time you go, it is 800. So if the person who goes to buy the thing at 500 comes to sell it at 700, yes, that's a significant margin. That's 200 additional money, which ordinarily would be something that is just too much, just greed and all of that. But by the time the person finishes selling this at 700, what happens is that they go and it is 800. And what do? They have to top up the 700 to be able to buy the next stock. So yes, sometimes what is added may look so big, but the reality is that if they don't, people think, look, if I don't act this way, I may just be losing my money because I bought a bag of sugar and the next time I go, I wouldn't be able to buy the same item. So what is important is that the government must adopt measures to, first of all, stabilize the cedi. Fortunately, I realized that over the last 1 week, things have stabilized a bit. And I would endorse that statement by the speaker, that potentially is as a result of the actions that happened in Parliament, where people feel, oh, okay, so now, is Oforiatta going to go? If the majority is saying this and the minority is, moving a vote of censure, are we going to have some change? So people then paused. The panic situation in the system came down a bit, and possibly that is why we've seen the cedi stabilize over the 1 week period. So what the government has to do is taking the right steps to ensure that things are stabilized, people get confidence in the system. As I said, the finance minister has lost credibility. There is no trust for him. People cannot believe whatever he says. And I don't think that at this stage he should even be the one leading our IMF negotiation. And that is why I don't know, as I said, what the secret is between him and the president. Maybe there is something that we don't know. So unless things stabilize, people will continue to, act unpredictably.
Okay. Suleiman, let's get into the story in the Daily Graphic. It says, restoring confidence in the economy, turn crisis into opportunities. And the government has outlined more measures to increase domestic revenue from about 13% of the value of goods and services produced in the country, that is GDP, to 20%, and also reviewed the standards required for imports to favor essential goods only. The government and the banking sector will also support companies to manufacture goods locally as substitutes for those imported. That was an interesting point that was made, some of the crucial things we use. I've said time and again that it is a no-brainer for me that we import so much rice, so much sugar. Comenda is sitting there, and I don't know what we're doing with it. We import toothpicks, the very basics. And so even look at COVID-19 when it hit, and we now had to think about manufacturing face masks, because China was hoarding, masks at a point in time. It's so, I simply don't get it. But that was one of the things he spoke about. And I don't know how quickly we can ramp it up and prevent, create that scenario where we're exporting more and importing very little so that we can shore up our economy. That was one of the major things he spoke about. And these are among a raft of measures to cut expenditure and stabilize prices, including the CD to restore confidence in the economy and resolve the current economic crisis. He said, quote, "We're in a crisis. I do not exaggerate when I say so. I cannot find an example in history when so many malevolent forces have come together at the same time," he said. And he explained that the budget drawn for the 2022 fiscal year had been thrown out of gear, disrupting the balance of payments and debt sustainability, further exposing the structural weaknesses of our economy. He speaks about import substitution, and he also talks about the cabinet retreat, which ended at the Peduasin Lodge near Ibri, and how for economic growth, the country would present to the International Monetary Fund its program for its support to implement. Well, we've had quite a take on that, so I'll just move on, unless you have something else to say about import substitution and all of that.
Yes, Ben, quick one. I was surprised that the president was making a policy statement with targets of 2028. You know, by 2028, we expect to have this. By 2028, we expect that we would have done this, and so on. The reality for me is that people are in crisis and they would want the issues resolved right now. And so what they're looking for are the short-term decisions. I think that really this government has been the most wasteful government, you know, in my adult life since I started, you know, following the political space and governance in this country. Look, by now, the food prices that we are experiencing, if planting for food and jobs, that project that we've put in so much money, if planting for food and jobs was something that had worked, or at least even achieved something, we shouldn't be in the situation that we are in. Yes, we would have been importing the Chinese rice and all of that, but people would have experienced that, look, there's so much food in the system and prices would go down. We've wasted so much money in a policy that is just for propaganda. And the sector minister would want us to believe that so much has been done that today he would want to run on that to become president of the country. It's been one of the most wasteful sectors. And so far, we haven't seen any significant improvement in our agri sector. And I would want to reference a statement made by Dr. Bawumia when I think in 2014 or 2015 thereabout, when he said, yes, there's global crisis. But how come it appears to have escaped Cote d'Ivoire, has escaped Togo, escaped Senegal?
I remember that. He says, how could it jump all of these countries and land only on Ghana? Right.
Why is it that our CD is the worst in the world? How? Not Sierra Leone, not Gambia, not these weaker, relatively smaller countries.
Right.
How come?
So, good question there. Maybe this is a bit of a bright spot. Ghana assumes UN Security Council presidency tomorrow, and Ghana will tomorrow assume the presidency of the United Nations Security Council for a month. As president of the council, Ghana will hold a high-level debate on, quote, threats to international peace and security, and that is on November 10, 2022, to be chaired by President Akufo-Addo. The debate will be on the theme counter-terrorism in Africa, an imperative for peace, security, and development. On the back page of the paper, Dramani, that is Coach Masood Didi Dramani. Player selection from massive scouting and network. Details on the back page of the Daily Graphic. You can catch those. But let's get into the Ghanaian Times. It says, measures to address continuous fall of the cedi. Government injects fresh dollars into economy. That's Mr. President. 9 new rice varieties introduced. Story on page 15. 461 doctors and dentists inducted. 13 grabbed over Galamsey in Doma East. Will restore order in Forex market, Bank of Ghana vows. Before I get into the Bank of Ghana story, Mr. President said, Suleimana, that he would continue with these addresses. We had called for Mr. President to do this a long time ago. It never came. The former president did it, and then, he also finally came through. But I'd like to find out, on the back of this first one, are you expecting for more? Are you looking forward to more from Mr. President on the back of the economy?
Well, we had expected that the president would have done this way earlier because the crisis started not long ago. But whilst we were in crisis, they were just facing some challenges. It's understandable because we know how our system works. For me, it's not about how often he comes to address the nation. It's about what he says. If it's about coming to say, address the nation, basically like the way he did yesterday, a long speech with little substance, I don't think that will restore confidence in the people. People want to see real and tangible actions that are being taken. People have been talking about reshuffle. Reshuffle your ministers. The president says he wouldn't listen. Meanwhile, in 2016, on his campaign, he was urging President Mahama to listen to the people. Look, listen to the people. People are urging you to take action. Listen to the people. They are the ones who voted for you.
Right.
And he's in power and nothing is happening. People are urging him to do this, including parliamentary groups that are saying, look, we have lost confidence in the minister. Let him go. And there's no action.
Let's look at page 26 of the paper. Staying on the economy, will restore order in forex market, Bank of Ghana vows. And the Bank of Ghana is taking steps to restore order in the foreign exchange market and ensure the interbank market took full control of the forex market, Governor Dr. Ernest Addison has said. Quoting him, available data indicates that we started the year at 6 Ghana cedis to the dollar. It got to 7 Ghana cedis, and we stayed at 7 Ghana cedis in June. Then 7.6 in July, 8 cedis in August, 9.6 cedis in September, and now it is 12.5. But we are here again with people sending messages that the dollar CD rate is 15 Ghana cedis to a dollar. I don't know. The Bank of Ghana seems to have its own bubble, its own cloud. I'm just saying, because the reality is that out there, I have changed money. And it is way above the Bank of Ghana's standard rates. I don't know what your take is, because the governor says clearly this type of movement does not reflect changes in the fundamentals. It is clear that the market is not functioning properly. How do we then get the market functioning properly? We know some Forex Bureau have been shut down. Quick take on that, very quick one.
Well, I think that generally it's been the pattern that the interbank rates are often a bit lower than what you get out there in the Forex Bureaus. It's not a new thing. This has been my experience for maybe about a decade now. So if for example, I had dollars and I would want to get cedis, I wouldn't take that to the bank because you would get a better rate or a higher rate if you go to the Forex Bureaus. I think that's a normal thing. But I certainly also share in the view that at some point, the speculations were just too much. It got to a point where almost every day you would have screenshots of what the CD is now. Oh, it's 15. Oh, it's 16. And I believe that certainly also added on to the panic. And therefore, any measures that could be taken to stabilize the situation is great for all of us. I don't think that anybody benefits if our CD continues to depreciate the way it has been depreciating. We should all support all measures that are intended to make the CD stable and increase the value of our local currency. And so let's all support whatever the Bank of Ghana is doing and whatever measures the government would want to put in place.
Let's do the daily guide now. Prophet Omoto storms Ghana with mega crusade. We love our crusades, don't we? There's also fellow Ghanaians. We're in crisis. Money doesn't like noise. Ishuru, like, it will be said in Hausa. Ishuru, keep quiet. Don't make noise. Don't make noise. Money doesn't like that. IMF negotiations going well. Then Blekusu residents appeal to government. Why? The people of Ketu in the Ketu South District of the Volta region have appealed to government to honor its promise of starting the second phase of the coastal protection project to protect them from the onslaught of tidal waves. They were battered by deadly tidal waves last year and are yet to recover from the ramifications of the incident. We all recall that. A quick look at some international stories. South Korea mourns after Halloween crush kills 153, and that's a very sad situation. That narrow path that all of them took, and it led to a stampede. Record $1 billion of liquid meth found hidden inside coconut water cartons, and that's a serious situation there. This was in New South Wales in Australia. There's also Zulu King crowned in historic ceremony. I'm talking about King Misuzulu, the 9th Zulu monarch. But another disaster. Suspension bridge collapses in India, plunging hundreds into river. That's another international story. And Russia halts grain deal after massive attack, they claim. And those are some of the major stories in the Daily Guide newspaper. There's also Ghana shines in Egypt, set powerlifting world record. You can check out details from there. Let's look at the finder. Dr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid is Public Sector CEO of the Year. Free SHS government releases 198.1 million to schools. There's 12 billion Ghana cedis paid and rising for costly Mahama power contracts. And imports regime set to be reviewed. Back again to what Mr. President said. But a quick one. You recall what Pierre Laporte, that statement from the World Bank has revealed about that project and how with a 4-month delay, we've still not been able to account for, progress so far. The former Director General of the GES had cause to, point that as far as he knew of it, nothing had been done about that situation. How odd do you find that situation?
Well, it's a very, very disturbing issue. When it came up first and the GES said, look, as far as we know, nothing has happened, I was extremely worried. And again, when I said the president did not touch on the problems, these are the problems, where monies come in and the monies are looted. And if the president says he's not aware, then I really don't know whether he has the full brief of what is happening in our country. So it's a very, very disturbing situation, but for me, not too surprising. That is what we found ourselves in. And as I said, this government has been the most wasteful government. If you look at how much we have borrowed, how much has come in, how much resources have been generated locally, and yet we find ourselves in the situation that we are in now. Some of these things they are disturbing, but like I said, they don't surprise me. Sadly, some months now, we still don't have the IMF deal. Again, I'm not surprised about hearing that there are questions around our data and the integrity of our data. If you recall, some time ago, my colleagues at Fact Check Ghana put out a report that indicated that Ghana was submitting different figures to the IMF and different figures to the people of Ghana through Parliament. The Finance Ministry then issued a statement, and the IMF country representative, was on air to say, well, yes, the data is different, but well, we have agreed to disagree with the government of Ghana on how they are presenting the data. Now you are before the IMF, and so if you do creative accounting, as this government has always sought to do,
right,
where you get into trouble, and then you have to go to the IMF negotiations would expose you, and that's where we are.
Let me give you a few more headlines and we shall wrap the conversation. The Chronicle, yes, there are economic hardships, but don't dare staging a coup. We shall resist it, Citizens Coalition tells the military. Pictured there, Mr. Kofi Bento, member of the coalition, also Professor Techiwa Menu, member of the group. And I think on this score, both the former president, John Dramani Mahama, and the current president are in agreement. We heard the former president re-echo what the president had been saying, that it wasn't the way to go. And I'm really happy about that situation. Tewu ready to work with new Director General of GES. NDC announced results of 4 constituencies. There's also, will pass anti-gay bill before 2024 polls. That's according to Backbin. Then, adopt alcohol regulation. Ghana NCDA urges MPs. There's also police arrest 29 suspects for violent clashes at Ashaiman. And I have not tendered my resignation, Charles Edubuahen, the finance minister at the presidency, says that. But just to wrap, Suleimana, times are hard, Akufo-Addo confesses. That's the Daily Dispatch. There's also Obed Asamoah in the 1992, 1996, and 2000 elections. And then there's John Mahama urges Ghana Armed Forces to be loyal to the 1992 Constitution, like I just said. In other stories, there's also what to expect from Parliament this week. And then there is a focus on Takrady constituency in the Western region. Let me wrap with this one from the Asante Hene. We're deceiving ourselves with Galamsey fight if politicians behind it aren't arrested. Point blank. Quick thoughts?
Absolutely.
You have a minute,
absolutely.
Mr.
Otunfo is right, and I like the point he makes that we go to the sites and we arrest those young men and young people who have been dirtied by the mud from the pits, and then we say we have arrested people doing Galamsey. Those are not the people doing Galamsey. If you want to prevent me from building a house, and all you do is to go there and arrest the masons who have contracted to do the work, you arrest them and take them away, but the next day there will be another set of masons and people working at the site. So I like the fact that Otumfuo is quite blunt about this. The issue about coup d'etat, why are we talking about coup d'etat? It's because people have lost confidence, and those who are old enough would say, look, the situation that we are in is akin to the kind of situations that used to prompt coup d'etats those days. But we all need to add our voice to the fact that, look, yes, we are in a crisis, we are in difficult situations, but I don't think that there is any military government that will be better than even the worst form of democracy. We have to continue to talk. We have 2 years under President Akufo-Addo. If people feel displeased by the MPP and they want to get rid of the MPP, let them do so via the ballot box. If they think they would want to have another MPP government with a different leader, let that decision be made through the ballot box. I think the military know their role to defend the territorial integrity of this country, and they should be confined to that.
Thank you so much, Suleiman. I just want to re-echo the words of Mr. President when he says, fellow Ghanaians, as the French would say, l'argent n'aime pas le bruit. To wit, money does not like noise. Sika impedide. Where there is chaos, where there is noise, where there is unrest, you will not find money. Let's find our Ghana city. Mr. Brahima, a very good morning to you and have a good day.
Merci beaucoup. Have a good day.
I love the fact that I've triggered some French out of you. On that note, we lean into sports, a lot coming your way. And after that, drive safe, of course. Do stay with us.